The massive crystalline spires of the Galactic Council headquarters stretched across the dark void like frozen lightning, each tower housing millions of beings from across known space. Deep within the central spire, the Grand Assembly Chamber waited in absolute silence. This was the moment every species feared, the day they would stand before the ultimate authority in the galaxy. Ambassador David Cole adjusted his simple black diplomatic uniform as the transport vessel approached the docking bay. Through the viewport, he could see the enormous scale of the structure that governed over 3,000 worlds and countless billions of sentient beings. No human had ever entered these chambers as anything other than a petitioner seeking basic recognition. Today would be different. The chamber doors opened with a sound like distant thunder, revealing the most intimidating sight in known space. The assembly hall stretched for kilometers in every direction, its walls rising into darkness where thousands of alien representatives watched from tiered galleries. At the center, 9 massive thrones held the High Council, beings of such ancient power that some had ruled when Earth was still covered in primitive oceans. High Chancellor Vex of the Dominion spoke first, his voice echoing across the vast space with mechanical precision. The species designated as human presents itself before this council. State your purpose, representative of Earth. David walked slowly toward the center platform, his footsteps echoing in the silence. Around him, creatures that defied imagination watched with expressions ranging from curiosity to barely concealed hostility. The crystalline beings of the core worlds hummed with harmonic frequencies that made the air vibrate. The massive insectoid delegates from the hive systems clicked their mandibles in what might have been anticipation. The ethereal representatives of the Phase Collective flickered between dimensions as they observed. Honored Council, David began, his voice carrying clearly through the chamber's perfect acoustics. Humanity comes before you today not as petitioners, but as equals seeking recognition of our rightful place among the galactic community. A ripple of what might have been amusement passed through the alien galleries. The concept of a primitive species claiming equality with civilizations that had mastered space travel before humans discovered fire seemed absurd to most observers. Supreme Arbiter. Quinn of the Ancient Reach leaned forward, her tentacled form shifting within its containment field. Your species achieved faster-than-light travel merely 50 years ago. The youngest member of this council has guided stellar policy for over 2 millennia. What possible basis do you claim for equality? David smiled, and something in that expression made several nearby delegates unconsciously step backward. Before I answer that question, Arbiter Quinn, perhaps you could explain how your intelligence networks failed to detect 3 human colonies and systems you believed were uninhabitable? The silence that followed was deafening. The Supreme Arbiter's tentacles writhed with agitation as she accessed her database of human activities. According to every scan, every survey, every intelligence report, humans controlled exactly 12 star systems with a total population of 8 billion beings. The colonies David referenced should not exist. Your claim is impossible, High Chancellor Vex stated with absolute certainty. Our monitoring systems track every ship movement, every energy signature, every communication in this sector. No species can establish colonies without our knowledge, can't they? David asked, reaching into his diplomatic pouch. Every security system in the chamber activated instantly, weapons targeting the human diplomat from 100 different angles. From his pouch, he withdrew a simple data crystal and held it up for all to see. This contains real-time feeds from 17 human colonies and systems your databases list as empty space, toxic environments, or theoretical impossibilities. We've been your neighbors for decades, and you never knew we were there. The crystal projected holographic displays throughout the chamber, showing thriving human settlements on worlds that the Council's own scientists had declared uninhabitable. Cities built in the hearts of radiation storms, mining operations in the cores of gas giants, research stations existing in parallel dimensions that most species couldn't even perceive. The alien delegates erupted in chaos as the implications sank in. If humans could hide entire civilizations from galactic surveillance, what else had they accomplished without detection? High Chancellor Vex's mechanical voice rose above the tumult. These images could be fabricated. Even if genuine, they represent minor technological achievements. They do not establish equality. David nodded thoughtfully. You're absolutely right, Chancellor. Hidden colonies don't prove equality, but perhaps this will. He activated another section of the crystal's memory. The new displays showed something that made every military commander in the chamber freeze with recognition. Detailed tactical analyses of the galaxy's most powerful fleets, complete with ship specifications, weapon capabilities, defensive weaknesses, and strategic doctrines. Information that should have been impossible for any outside species to obtain. The Dominion's Third Fleet, David said casually, maintains patrol routes that follow a predictable pattern based on fuel efficiency calculations from 300 years ago. The Hive systems rely on quantum entanglement for fleet coordination, but the process creates detectable resonance signatures that can be tracked across interstellar distances. The Phase Collective's dimensional warfare tactics become useless in areas with specific gravitational field configurations. He paused, letting the assembled representatives absorb the fact that their most closely guarded military secrets were common knowledge to this supposedly primitive species. "Shall I continue?" David asked. "I have detailed information about every species in this chamber, including several that don't officially exist according to your public records." Supreme Arbiter Quinn's voice carried a note of barely controlled panic. "How do you possess this information?" "Our security protocols are absolute. Because for 50 years every human who entered galactic space has been gathering intelligence," David replied. "Every diplomat, every trade representative, every cultural exchange student, every tourist. We don't just observe or we analyze, we synthesize, and we remember." The chamber fell into stunned silence as the scope of human intelligence operations became clear. For half a century, while the galaxy had dismissed humanity as a minor species worthy of minimal attention, humans had been systematically documenting every aspect of galactic civilization. "The truth is," David continued, "humanity doesn't seek equality because we consider ourselves your equals. We seek equality because we have already achieved superiority in the areas that matter most. Intelligence gathering, technological adaptation, strategic thinking, and most importantly, the ability to remain invisible until we choose to reveal ourselves." High Chancellor Vex rose from his throne, his massive form radiating barely controlled fury. "Your claims border on acts of war, human. The Council does not tolerate threats from lesser species." David's smile returned, and this time even the most powerful beings in the galaxy felt a chill of genuine fear. "Chancellor, I haven't made any threats. I've simply presented facts. The question now is whether this council chooses to recognize reality or whether you prefer to continue operating under the illusion that you control a galaxy where humans are merely tolerated guests." He looked around the chamber, meeting the eyes of creatures that had never known fear of any species. "Because the age of human petitioning for recognition is over. From this moment forward, humanity takes its place as a galactic power. The only question is whether that transition happens through diplomacy or through more direct means." The implications hung in the air like a weapon drawn but not yet fired. Every being in the chamber understood that they were witnessing the end of the old galactic order and the beginning of something entirely new. The primitive species they had barely acknowledged had just announced its emergence as a force that could challenge the established powers of the galaxy, and they had done it with nothing more than information, intelligence, and the absolute confidence of beings who had been planning this moment for 50 years. The emergency session convened within hours of Ambassador Cole's shocking revelation. In the secure chambers beneath the Council headquarters, the galaxy's most powerful military commanders gathered around holographic displays that showed a reality none of them had imagined possible. Fleet Admiral Thorne of the Stellar Navy stood before the assembled War Council, his scaled features reflecting the blue glow of intelligence reports that painted an increasingly impossible picture. "Analysis of the human data confirms our worst fears. Their intelligence network has penetrated every major military organization in the galaxy." The room fell silent as the implications sank in. Species that had guarded their secrets for millennia discovered that humans possessed detailed knowledge of their most sensitive operations. Grand Marshal Kita of the warrior clans slammed her four-armed form against the conference table. "How does a species that barely understands quantum mechanics possess tactical information about weapon systems they've never encountered?" "Because they don't need to understand our technology," replied strategic analyst Vox, his crystalline form pulsing with agitated light patterns. "They only need to understand us. Every diplomatic encounter, every trade negotiation, every cultural exchange has been a carefully orchestrated intelligence operation. The holographic displays shifted to show human observation posts scattered throughout the galaxy. Bases hidden in asteroid fields, monitoring stations disguised as research facilities, and surveillance networks that had been operating for decades without detection. Admiral Thorne manipulated the display controls, highlighting specific installations. These positions allow humans to monitor fleet movements throughout the core systems. They've been tracking our patrol routes, recording our communication protocols, and analyzing our tactical responses to simulated conflicts. Simulated conflicts? Grand Marshal Kita demanded. The border skirmishes we've experienced over the past 20 years, Vox explained, his light patterns shifting to display historical data, the territorial disputes between minor species, the piracy incidents that required military intervention, the mysterious equipment failures that forced fleets to adjust their standard procedures. Humans orchestrated or manipulated these events to study our responses. The revelation hit the assembled commanders like a physical blow. Every military action of the past 2 decades had been observed, analyzed, and cataloged by human intelligence operatives who remained completely invisible to galactic detection systems. Admiral Thorne activated another section of the display, but the intelligence gathering is only part of their preparation. Our analysis indicates that humans have been developing countermeasures for every major military capability in the galaxy. The screen showed technical schematics that made even experienced military leaders gasp in recognition. Weapons designed specifically to neutralize stellar Navy energy shields. Devices that could disrupt warrior clan combat coordination. And most disturbing of all, technology that seemed capable of interfering with the quantum consciousness networks used by the crystalline species. These designs incorporate technology from dozens of different species. Strategic analyst Vox observed, his form flickering with disbelief. Humans have taken our individual achievements and combined them in ways we never considered possible. Grand Marshal Kita studied the schematics with the eye of someone who had commanded fleets for 3 centuries. The innovation patterns suggest systematic reverse engineering of captured technology. But when did humans gain access to our military hardware? The answer came from an unexpected source. Dr. Helen Park, a human scientist who had been working within the galactic research community for over a decade, appeared via secure transmission. Her presence in the meeting shocked every commander present. "We gained access," Dr. Park said calmly, "because you invited us to study your technology. Every joint research project, every scientific collaboration, every educational exchange program provided opportunities to examine galactic capabilities up close." Fleet Admiral Thorne's voice dropped to a dangerous whisper. "How long have you been operating under false identity, Doctor?" "Helen Park died in a transport accident 8 years ago," she replied. "I'm Commander Lisa Hart of Human Strategic Intelligence. I've been documenting your research capabilities and technological vulnerabilities since I accepted this position." The assembled military leaders stared at the human operative who had spent years working alongside their own scientists, learning their secrets while maintaining perfect cover. "The research facility where I work," Commander Hart continued, "houses representatives from 47 different species. Over the past 8 years, I've had access to technological databases, experimental prototypes, and classified research projects from across the galaxy. Every breakthrough, every innovation, every theoretical development has been reported to human command." Grand Marshal Kita's forearms moved in patterns that indicated extreme agitation. "You're describing an intelligence operation of unprecedented scope and duration." "No," Hart corrected. "I'm describing one intelligence operation among hundreds. Every human in galactic space has been gathering information, from diplomatic attachos to cargo transport crews. We don't just send spies, we are spies." The holographic displays now showed the true extent of human intelligence penetration. Cultural exchange students who documented military facilities during educational tours. Trade representatives who mapped industrial capabilities while negotiating commercial agreements. Diplomatic staff who recorded classified conversations during social gatherings. Admiral Thorne studied the data with growing horror. "Your entire species has been conducting warfare through espionage." "Not warfare," Hart replied. "Preparation for warfare. There's a crucial difference. We've gathered the information necessary to defeat any potential enemy, but we've avoided taking any action that would reveal our capabilities until now. Strategic analyst Vox's light patterns cycled through the entire spectrum as he processed the implications. The patience required for such long-term planning exceeds anything in galactic history. Most species think in terms of decades or centuries. You've been executing a strategy that spans multiple generations. Humans think differently about time and conflict, Hart explained. We understand that the most decisive battles are won before the fighting begins. While you were perfecting your weapons, we were learning how to make those weapons useless. The display shifted again, showing human technological developments that had occurred in complete secrecy. Manufacturing facilities built in hidden star systems, research laboratories operating in parallel dimensions, and most shocking of all, military installations that surpassed anything the galaxy had ever produced. The colonies Ambassador Cole mentioned, Admiral Thorne realized, they weren't just hidden settlements. They were military-industrial complexes designed to support large-scale warfare. 17 visible colonies, Hart confirmed. 43 additional installations that remain undetected by your current sensor technology. Each one designed to produce specific types of weapons and support equipment optimized for conflicts against particular galactic species. Grand Marshal Kita's warrior instincts finally overcame her shock. You're preparing for war against the entire galaxy simultaneously. We're prepared for war against any combination of galactic species, Hart corrected. The question has never been whether we could fight you. The question has been whether we would need to fight you. The chamber fell into stunned silence as the assembled military leaders confronted a truth that challenged everything they thought they knew about galactic power structures. Humanity hadn't emerged as a galactic threat. They had been the dominant power for decades while allowing everyone else to believe they were in control. The demonstration Ambassador Cole provided today, Hart continued, was meant to offer the galaxy a choice. Accept humanity as an equal partner in galactic governance, or discover what happens when a species that has been preparing for war for 50 years decides that diplomacy has failed. Her transmission began to fade as the security connection closed. You have 72 hours to discuss your response among the council members. After that, humanity will assume that silence indicates rejection of our diplomatic overtures. As the transmission ended, the military commanders faced a strategic nightmare beyond anything in their experience. They weren't just dealing with an unknown enemy. They were dealing with an enemy that knew everything about them while remaining completely invisible until they chose to reveal themselves. The galaxy's greatest military minds now had 3 days to figure out how to fight a war against opponents who had been studying them for 50 years. The 3-day deadline passed in tense silence from the Galactic Council, but the galaxy's response came not through words, but through the mobilization of the largest military force in recorded history. Admiral Kane Morrison stood on the bridge of the HMS Defiance, humanity's first openly revealed warship, watching the enemy fleet approach through the darkness between stars. Contact report, Morrison called to his sensor operator. 437 vessels approaching from multiple vectors. Lieutenant Sarah Kim replied, her voice steady despite the overwhelming odds. Stellar Navy battlecruisers, Warrior Clan assault ships, Phase Collective interdictors, and Crystalline Conclave dreadnoughts. Full spectrum of galactic military power. The enemy formation represented the combined might of 23 different species, each contributing their most advanced warships to what the Council had declared would be humanity's final lesson in galactic hierarchy. Leading the massive fleet was Grand Admiral Zex of the combined forces, a veteran commander whose tactical genius had ended 3 separate interstellar wars. Morrison studied the approaching armada with calm interest, rather than the fear his enemies expected. Communications, open a channel to the flagship. The main screen flickered to life, revealing Grand Admiral Zex himself. The ancient reptilian warrior's scarred features reflected centuries of successful military campaigns, and his golden eyes held the confidence of someone who had never experienced defeat. Human commander, Zex began, his voice carrying the authority of absolute power. You face the greatest military force ever assembled in galactic history. Surrender now, and your species will be granted the mercy of continued existence under Council supervision. Morrison nodded respectfully. Grand Admiral, I've studied your career extensively. The Battle of Rigel 7, the Siege of the Crystal Worlds, the campaign that ended the Phase War. Remarkable tactical achievements, all of them Zex's expression shifted slightly, surprised by the human's detailed knowledge of classified military history. Your research will not save you. Raw information cannot overcome the reality of 400 ships against one. Actually, Morrison replied, I count 437 ships. Your formation includes 6 stealth vessels that believe they're invisible, 12 interdiction platforms attempting to prevent our escape, and 38 support craft maintaining communications, networks between species that normally can't coordinate their targeting systems. The casual enumeration of hidden assets sent shockwaves through the enemy command structure. Ships that were supposed to be undetectable had been identified and cataloged as if they were broadcasting their positions openly. Grand Admiral Zex leaned forward, his predatory instincts fully engaged. Impressive sensors. They will not help you when the shooting begins. Morrison smiled with the same unsettling confidence that had become humanity's signature expression. Grand Admiral, before we begin, I have a question. In your extensive military career, have you ever fought an enemy that knew your battle plans better than your own staff officers? What are you suggesting? I'm suggesting that we know exactly how the Combined Forces Coordination Protocol functions. We know that Stellar Navy ships will establish perimeter containment, while Warrior Clan vessels execute the primary assault. We know that Phase Collective Interdictors will prevent our retreat, while Crystalline Conclave Dreadnoughts provide overwhelming firepower support. We know that your personal command style favors concentrated attacks against apparent weak points, followed by systematic destruction of disabled enemies. Each tactical revelation hit the alien commander like a physical blow. Morrison was describing classified operational doctrines that had been developed over centuries and shared only among the highest levels of galactic military command. How do you possess this information? Zex demanded. Because we've been watching you fight for 50 years, Morrison replied. Every battle, every maneuver, every tactical innovation has been observed, analyzed, and countered. We don't just know how you fight, Grand Admiral. We know how you think. The human warship began moving toward the center of the enemy formation with the confidence of a predator approaching helpless prey. To the galactic observers, it appeared to be a suicidal charge that would end in the complete destruction of the lone human vessel. What they didn't see were the 17 additional human ships that emerged from stealth positions throughout the engagement zone, vessels that had been invisible to every sensor system in the galactic arsenal, using technologies that combined the best innovations from dozens of species and improved them beyond recognition. Impossible, Grand Admiral Zex whispered as his tactical displays registered the appearance of an entire human fleet, where his sensors had detected empty space. Not impossible, Morrison corrected. Inevitable. You see, while your species spent centuries perfecting individual technologies, we spent decades learning how to integrate them. Phase technology combined with crystalline stealth matrices, stellar energy shielding enhanced with warrior clan armor plating, quantum consciousness networks adapted for instantaneous human tactical coordination. The human ships moved through the galactic formation like dancers following a choreographed routine, each vessel positioned exactly where it needed to be, to exploit known weaknesses in specific enemy ship designs. They struck with surgical precision, targeting command centers, weapon systems, and coordination networks with weapons that had been specifically designed to penetrate the defenses of each ship. Type Grand Admiral Zex watched in horror as his carefully coordinated battle plan collapsed into chaos. Ships that should have been providing mutual support found themselves isolated and vulnerable. Tactical formations that had dominated galactic warfare for millennia were systematically dismantled by opponents who seemed to anticipate every move before it was made. This is impossible, he repeated, his voice carrying the shock of someone whose fundamental understanding of reality had been shattered. No species can coordinate this level of tactical precision across multiple ship types. No galactic species, Morrison agreed. But humans think differently about coordination and command. While your fleets require complex communication networks to maintain formation integrity, our ships think as one mind distributed across multiple platforms. The battle became a demonstration, rather than a conflict, as human forces disabled enemy vessels with minimal casualties. Instead of destroying their opponents, they systematically neutralized weapon systems, disabled engines, and captured command crews with the efficiency of a police operation rather than a military engagement. You're not trying to destroy us, Grand Admiral Zex realized with growing unease. Destroy you? Morrison asked, genuinely surprised. Grand Admiral, you represent the finest military traditions in the galaxy. Why would we destroy assets we intend to incorporate into our own forces? The full implications of humanity's strategy became clear as boarding parties began securing the disabled alien vessels. This wasn't conquest through destruction. It was recruitment through demonstration of superiority. Your crews will be treated with full military honors. Morrison continued as human forces took control of ship after ship. Those who choose to serve under human command will find their capabilities enhanced beyond anything they achieved under galactic leadership. Those who prefer to return to their homeworlds will be transported there with our compliments and detailed recordings of today's engagement. Grand Admiral Zex found himself surrounded by human Marines, who had somehow bypassed every security system on his flagship without triggering a single alarm. His own crew stood calmly at their stations, apparently unharmed but clearly under human control. How? Was all he could manage to ask. The same way we've accomplished everything else, Morrison replied as his image appeared on the flagship's main screen. Through 50 years of preparation, analysis, and strategic thinking that considered not just how to win battles, but how to win wars without destroying the resources we intended to use afterward. The greatest military force in galactic history had been defeated, not through superior firepower, but through superior knowledge, coordination, and strategic planning that had turned their own strengths against them. The war is over, Grand Admiral, Morrison announced. The question now is whether you choose to join the winning side or return home to explain to the Council how 400 ships lost to 18. News of the combined fleet's defeat spread across the galaxy, faster than light-speed communications could carry it. In the emergency assembly chambers of the Galactic Council, representatives from hundreds of worlds gathered to confront a reality that challenged 10,000 years of established order. High Chancellor Vex stood before the assembled delegates, his mechanical form radiating the stress signals that indicated complete systemic overload. The reports from the Outer Rim engagement have been verified by 17 independent sources. The combined forces fleet has been neutralized with minimal casualties. The chamber erupted in chaos as the implications sank in. The most powerful military formation in galactic history had been defeated by a species that officially controlled only 12 star systems and possessed technology that was considered primitive by galactic standards. Supreme Arbiter, Queen of the Ancient Reach, activated her communication systems, her tentacled form writhing with agitation. Grand Admiral Zex has requested permission to address this assembly via emergency transmission. The holographic display activated, revealing the defeated commander standing on what was clearly a human vessel. His once proud bearing had been replaced by the careful posture of someone who had learned the true meaning of powerlessness. Honored Council, Zex began, his voice carrying none of its former authority. I must report that everything we believed about human capabilities was fundamentally incorrect. Their military technology incorporates innovations from every species in the galaxy, integrated in ways that exceed our individual achievements. The assembled delegates listened in stunned silence as their greatest military commander described a defeat that defied every principle of galactic warfare. Their coordination protocols allow instantaneous communication between ships across interstellar distances, Zex continued. Their weapon systems are specifically designed to exploit the weaknesses of each ship type in our combined fleet. Their tactical doctrines demonstrate complete understanding of our military traditions and strategic thinking patterns. Strategic Coordinator Nex of the War Clans interrupted with barely controlled fury. Are you suggesting that a primitive species possesses military capabilities that surpass the collective achievements of galactic civilization? I'm stating that as a fact, Zex replied. Moreover, their defeat of our forces was accomplished with surgical precision that minimized casualties while maximizing psychological impact. They could have destroyed every ship in the combined fleet. Instead, they chose to demonstrate their superiority while preserving our forces for potential future integration. The word integration sent chills through the assembly. The humans weren't planning to destroy galactic civilization. They were planning to absorb it. High Chancellor Vex processed the incoming data streams with mechanical precision. Admiral, explain the current status of the combined fleet. 60% of our forces have agreed to serve under human command pending Council decision on their future deployment. Zex reported. The remaining 40% have been transported to neutral systems with full military honors and detailed records of the engagement. No vessels were destroyed, no crews were harmed, and all captured equipment has been returned along with technical improvements that enhance performance by an average of 30%. The casual mention of technological improvements stunned the military representatives. Humans had not only defeated the galaxy's most advanced fleet, they had improved the captured ships and returned them as a demonstration of their technical capabilities. Chancellor Vex's optical sensors flickered as he processed the strategic implications. They're demonstrating that service under human command provides tangible benefits rather than subjugation. Correct, Admiral Zex confirmed. The ship modifications they've implemented incorporate technologies I didn't know existed. Our vessels now possess capabilities that exceed anything in our previous design specifications. Dr. Alex Chen, humanity's newly appointed Director of Galactic Relations, appeared via transmission from an undisclosed location. His presence in the council chambers shocked the assembled delegates, as no human had been granted such access without explicit permission. Dr. Chen, High Chancellor Vex said with mechanical formality, your species was not invited to participate in this emergency session. With respect, Chancellor, Chen replied, events have moved beyond the point where invitations determine participation. Humanity is now a galactic power whether the Council chooses to acknowledge that reality or not. The simple statement carried implications that reverberated through the chamber. The humans weren't requesting recognition. They were announcing their assumption of power. The question facing this assembly, Chen continued, is whether the transition from Council authority to human coordination occurs through cooperation or through continued military demonstrations, Supreme Arbiter. Quinn's tentacles writhed with patterns that indicated extreme stress. You speak of replacing galactic governance structures that have maintained peace for 10 millennia. I speak of replacing governance structures that maintained stagnation disguised as peace, Chen corrected. For 10,000 years, the galaxy has been politically stable because no species possessed the capability to challenge the established order. That situation has now changed. The holographic displays throughout the chamber activated, showing human activities across the galaxy that had been invisible to Council monitoring systems. Industrial complexes producing advanced technologies, research facilities developing innovations that combined multiple species' capabilities, and most disturbing of all, diplomatic centers where representatives from dozens of worlds were voluntarily negotiating integration agreements with human leadership. These facilities have been operating for decades, Chen explained, developing the technologies and relationships necessary to coordinate galactic civilization more efficiently than the current system allows. Strategic Coordinator next studied the displays with growing alarm. You're describing a systematic replacement of galactic infrastructure. I'm describing systematic improvement of galactic infrastructure, Chen replied. The Council system requires years of negotiation to approve simple trade agreements. Human coordination protocols can implement complex interstellar policies within days. The Council system maintains peace through balance of power. Human leadership maintains progress through coordination of power. The data stream showed comparative analyses that painted a disturbing picture of Council inefficiency. Trade disputes that had lasted for decades were resolved within weeks under human mediation. Territorial conflicts that had consumed centuries of diplomatic effort were settled through resource-sharing agreements that benefited all parties involved. The species that have chosen to work with human coordination report dramatic improvements in economic efficiency, technological development, and social stability, Chen continued. The question is whether the remaining Council members prefer to maintain the illusion of independence while falling further behind, or whether they choose to join a system that actually serves their citizens' interests. High Chancellor Vex's mechanical systems cycled through processing protocols as he analyzed the strategic situation. You're offering the Council a choice between voluntary cooperation and forced integration. I'm offering the Council a choice between evolution and irrelevance, Chen corrected. The galaxy is changing whether the Council participates in that change or not. Species that adapt to the new reality will prosper. Species that cling to outdated systems will find themselves increasingly isolated. The chamber fell into silence as the assembled representatives confronted the end of everything they had known. The established order that had governed galactic civilization for millennia was being replaced by a coordination system they didn't understand, managed by a species they had dismissed as insignificant. "How long do we have to make this decision?" Supreme Arbiter Quinn asked. "The decision is already being made," Chen replied. "Every day, more species choose to work with human coordination rather than council bureaucracy. Every week, more worlds discover the benefits of integrated development rather than isolated competition. The council can choose to lead this transition, follow it, or be bypassed by it." His transmission began to fade as the communication link prepared to close. "The old galaxy is ending, honored representatives. The question is whether you want to help build the new one, or whether you prefer to be remembered as the last guardians of a system that outlived its usefulness." As the transmission ended, the assembled delegates faced a choice that would determine not just their political future, but the fundamental structure of galactic civilization itself. 1 year after humanity's emergence as a galactic power, the transformation of known space was complete. The ancient council chambers had been redesigned as coordination centers where representatives from across the galaxy worked together under human guidance to solve problems that had seemed impossible under the old system. Director Elena Rodriguez stood where the Tribunal of Nine had once passed judgment on lesser species, but the platform now served as a coordination hub rather than a seat of authority. Around her, beings from hundreds of worlds collaborated on projects that would have required decades of negotiation under the previous governmental structure. "Status report on the integration protocol," Rodriguez called to her staff. 93% of galactic species have voluntarily joined the coordination system, replied Administrator Tom Wilson, reviewing data streams from across known space. The remaining 7% maintain independent status but have requested trade agreements and technological sharing arrangements. The numbers represented a political transformation unprecedented in galactic history. In 12 months, humanity had achieved something the Council had never accomplished in 10,000 years. Ideas or genuine cooperation between species that had previously viewed each other as competitors or threats. Former High Chancellor Vex approached the coordination platform, his mechanical form now enhanced with human technological improvements that had increased his processing capabilities by orders of magnitude. "Director Rodriguez, the quarterly efficiency reports are ready for review." "Thank you, Chancellor," Rodriguez replied, using his former title out of respect rather than protocol. Under human coordination, former council leaders had been given the choice to serve in advisory roles or return to their home worlds with full honors. Most had chosen to remain, discovering that advisory positions under effective leadership were more satisfying than absolute authority within dysfunctional systems. The efficiency reports painted a picture of galactic civilization that would have been unimaginable under council rule. Interstellar trade had increased by 300% due to standardized protocols and streamlined negotiation processes. Scientific research had accelerated exponentially as species shared information instead of hoarding it for competitive advantage. Military conflicts had virtually disappeared as human coordination resolved disputes before they escalated to violence. The integration success stories continue to exceed projections, Chancellor Vex reported. The warrior clans report that their military capabilities have doubled under human tactical coordination. The Crystalline Conclave has achieved breakthrough discoveries by combining their computational abilities with human analytical protocols. The Phase Collective has learned to use their dimensional capabilities for peaceful exploration rather than military intimidation. Rodriguez nodded as she reviewed the data. What about resistance movements? The few that emerged have largely dissolved, Administrator Wilson replied. Species that initially viewed human leadership as occupation now describe it as liberation. From their own governmental limitations, the transformation had been so complete that many former council members struggled to remember why they had initially opposed human coordination. The benefits of cooperative development had become so obvious that independence seemed like self-imposed isolation rather than political freedom. Admiral Kane Morrison, now serving as Director of Galactic Security, materialized via holographic transmission from his flagship in the Outer Rim territories. Director, we've completed the integration of the remaining holdout military forces. The former combined fleet has been restructured into specialized task forces that utilize each species' tactical advantages under unified human command. Casualties? Rodriguez asked. 0, Morrison replied. The integration process has been entirely voluntary. Former enemy commanders now serve as tactical advisors for operations in their regions of expertise. Military efficiency has improved dramatically because each species contributes what they do best rather than trying to maintain independent capabilities in all areas. The holographic displays throughout the chamber showed the new military structure that had emerged under human coordination. Instead of competitive fleets that viewed each other as potential threats, the galaxy now possessed specialized forces that work together to explore unknown regions, protect trade routes, and respond to natural disasters with efficiency that surprised even their human coordinators. Former Supreme Arbiter Quinn approached the platform, her tentacled form moving with the fluid grace of someone who had found purpose after centuries of bureaucratic frustration. Director, the cultural exchange programs have produced unexpected results. Species that had maintained diplomatic distance for millennia are now actively collaborating on joint projects. Explain, Rodriguez requested. The Crystalline Conclave and the Warrior clans have developed a new form of combat meditation that combines crystalline mathematical precision with warrior tactical instincts. Quinn reported. The Phase Collective and the Stellar Navy have created exploration protocols that allow simultaneous investigation of multiple dimensional layers within the same star system. The Ancient Reach and the Young Industrial species have established mentorship programs that accelerate technological development while preserving cultural wisdom. The examples represented something that had never existed in galactic history, a genuine cooperation between species with fundamentally different perspectives on existence itself. Under the Council system, such differences had been sources of conflict. Under human coordination, they had become sources of strength. Dr. Lisa Torres, formerly the intelligence operative who had infiltrated Council systems, now served as Director of Interspecies Development. She approached with reports that contained the most remarkable statistics of all. The psychological impact assessments show unprecedented results, she announced. Species satisfaction with galactic governance has increased by over 400%. Individual citizens report higher quality of life, greater opportunities for advancement, and stronger sense of purpose within the larger galactic community. Rodriguez reviewed the data with genuine satisfaction. Any regrets about the transition process? Minimal, Torres replied. The few individuals who preferred the old system cite nostalgia for independence rather than practical objections to current governance. Even former Council hardliners acknowledge that the results speak for themselves. The transformation had been so thorough that most galactic citizens couldn't imagine returning to the previous system of competitive politics and bureaucratic inefficiency. The human approach to governance, raw coordination rather than control, integration rather than domination, cooperation rather than competition, had proven more effective than traditional methods. Chancellor Vec stepped forward to address the assembly. Director Rodriguez, on behalf of the former council members, I want to formally acknowledge that humanity's assumption of galactic leadership has exceeded every expectation. The civilization we've built together surpasses anything we achieved independently. The statement represented the final surrender of the old order, not through defeat, but through recognition that the new system served everyone's interests better than the previous structure. Rodriguez looked around the chamber at beings who had once viewed humans as primitive, newcomers to galactic civilization. Chancellor, the success belongs to all of us. Humans provided coordination, but each species contributed capabilities that made the achievements possible. What we've built is truly galactic civilization, rather than a collection of independent species pretending to cooperate. She activated the main display to show the current state of human-coordinated space. Thousands of worlds working together on projects that spanned multiple star systems. Research facilities where dozens of species collaborated on problems that no single civilization could solve alone. Trade networks that moved resources where they were needed, rather than where they could be hoarded for competitive advantage. The question we faced a year ago, Rodriguez continued, was whether the galaxy would accept human leadership or resist it. What we discovered is that the galaxy was waiting for someone to provide the coordination necessary to achieve its full potential. The assembled representatives were our former enemies who had become partners, former competitors who had become collaborators, former rulers who had become advisors. Looked at the displays showing a civilization that had exceeded their wildest dreams. The human emergence as a galactic power had not been conquest, it had been evolution, and every species in known space had discovered that they were stronger together, under human coordination, than they had ever been apart under their own leadership. The galaxy finally understood what humanity had always known, that the greatest victories come not from defeating your enemies, but from convincing them to become your allies.